America is a really weird place right now. And I'm not talking Florida's weird, like a guy wrestling an alligator to get a free public sub. I'm talking about the State of the Union type of weird. Political violence is at a rise. Threats against public officials are at record levels, and half the country thinks the other half wants to burn the Constitution for TikTok likes. Now, I'm going to break down exactly why I think America is so polarized, who's responsible, where we're headed, and is it another 1968 moment or something even worse? Stick around. You just might learn something. So let's start with all the receipts, because data doesn't lie, even if politicians do. A report by CBS discusses the shift of political violence from one party to the other and the rise, believe it or not, from the right to the left. Check it out.
A new report by the Center for Strategic and International Studies looked at 30 years of extremist political violence in America and analyzed what motivates the violence from the left and the right extremes. Daniel Byman is a director at CSIS and joins me now. Daniel, thank you so much for being with us. I want to get to Manchester in a minute, but first, can we just put it in context? Tell me what your report found.
Our report has shown significant changes in the terrorism threat to the United States over the years. Of course, and understandably, the United States was focused on the jihadist threat after 9/11. But we saw extreme right-wing terrorism really surge in 2008 and remain high for many years. But at the same time, really starting around 2016, we also saw an increase in left-wing attacks, although not nearly as high. But 2025 showed a very dramatic change. So far in 2025, we've seen more left-wing attacks than we have right-wing attacks. And that's a shift for all the time we've been collecting data, which is around 30 years.
According to federal reports, political violence and threats have tripled since 2016. Local officials, school board members, mayors, election staff, they get threats every single day. Social media amplified every single conflict, turned every disagreement into like a Civil War trailer. The FBI chart shows that, as you can see, it labels political violence as domestic terror attack. So it's a little bit different how they label it, but this is how the chart you want to go on. Since 2013, political violence has jumped 375%. These aren't just extremists living in caves, guys. These are normal people like your Uber driver, the Target lady, the guy that cuts you off and has too many bumper stickers on his Prius. These are normal, everyday people that are turning to violence that normally wouldn't do that. This didn't happen by accident. It happens because we now live in two completely different realities. Media fragmentation, okay? So people choose a media that tells them they're always right. You know what I'm talking about. Anytime you get on a social media platform, and you start scrolling through your social media stuff, you're gonna get stories that are catered directly to you. You're gonna get stuff that is pushed to your algorithm and is going to be absorbed in your feed. So when you start going, if you lean towards the left, you're going to get that information. If you lean towards the right, you're going to get that information. And that's what the media fragmentation is. And it has a lot to do with the psyops and the level of algorithms, because your phone knows the political triggers better than your spouse. So every time you look at something, every time you spend 2 seconds, 3 seconds on any video on your phone or on a computer, the algorithm starts tracking. It's like, oh God, Tommy's the one that likes all that political stuff from the left. He likes left violence. He likes riots. He likes protests. This is the stuff he wants. Oh, he thinks the Republicans are responsible for the shutdown. And that's what the algorithm does on your cell phones and on your media devices. Then you got social identity politics. We no longer defend our views, we defend tribes, right? So it's no longer a simple ideology of what you believe, let's say it's women's rights or whatever you want to believe in. It's no longer that. It's now groups of individuals that are put together that we're defending, like a whole community, LGBTQ, things like that. We're identifying and working and having identity politics instead of individualism and what your views might have been 20, 30 years ago. And declining institutions. The trust in the government, the media, and the education and police have dropped significantly over the last 15 years. And it's a huge problem with getting to point out and reaching individuals and getting them to understand one way or the other. Because you have it in your hands 24/7, they can reach you at any moment, at any time, even if you're not ready for it. And to give you an idea how the media manipulates you, look at the chart. These are different headlines. The left are red, the blue are from the left. So on the left, it says demonstrators demand justice as mostly peaceful protests sees isolated unrest. Now, what the other side said in the same exact type of article, but the title was different, violent rioters storm city streets in a coordinated attack on public safety. And then the other side, activists clash with police during social justice demonstration. And on the left, mob assault law enforcement in anti-government rampage. This is what the media is doing to us. It is manipulating you with everything you see. So a side-by-side comparison of left-wing and right-wing headlines for the exact same event manipulates you one way or the other. So your entire worldview is curated by a stupid algorithm. Everything becomes a battlefield every day you wake up. Look at the huge contrast between left and right-wing news. Okay, the media has created this monster, and Americans are the ones that are being manipulated by it. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. So every group has violent protests on both sides, but the left-wing political violence has escalated over the past few years. So they got BLM riots in 2020, the attacks on federal buildings, college campuses, assaults and shutdowns, Antifa-style harassment of speakers. Now the right wing, they always go after January 6th, and this is what they got. They got the Michigan kidnapping plot with the governor over there, which we all know there's some different truths to that, just like January 6th. I won't get into it on here because if I start talking about it on any of these platforms, it gets shut down. But if you do enough dig on January 6th and you do a little bit of research, not a whole lot, you watch some of the video that wasn't released, the footage that was released by the Congressional Oversight Committee that released 20,000 hours of video, you'll see things that don't look right. You'll see the FBI agents that were there, 275 of them were bussed in. Look, I get it. There are a lot of people that did crazy stuff that day. And I'm not excusing any of those individuals that might have done things that they shouldn't have done. But people just really have a bad day. They really do. And when you got people that are in a crowd instigating it and making people get riled them up and pushing them into buildings, people do things they probably wouldn't normally done. So that's a black guy for the Republican Party. And I get it, the MAGA people. And you want to use that one for every time there's a violent outbreak by the left, fine, you can use that. But I did a lot of research, and the only things that I found were violence were from the left. You know, anytime you go through January 6th stuff, you can say, okay, that was a bad, you want to do the January 6th stuff? Yes, that was a bad look for the Republican Party and for MAGA people, because I did some research and the only real violent attacks on cities that I could find were from the left. Now I get it. Here's the truth nobody wants to say out loud. We have extremists on both sides of the aisle. They go together and they conflict with each other like exes that had a really bad breakup. But the truth is, when I started looking into this, I'm not finding a lot of right-wing protests that turn violent. It just really doesn't exist. Maybe it existed 30, 40, 50 years ago, 60 years ago, but I can't really find anything. And if the only thing they have is January 6th, that goes to tell me that the statistics that CBS News brought up earlier in the show tells me that the left is starting to escalate their violence. Okay? Political violence isn't just for extremists, it's regular people that come to a breaking point. This is what happens. Isolation. With COVID-19, it radicalized different pipelines of individuals. People that wouldn't normally have been that way, it's like getting cabin fever. You're isolated. You're locked down. People need touch. People need to interact. The majority of people do. Maybe there's some weirdos out there that don't like to be around anybody, but for the most part, people like to interact with other people. And isolation isn't very good, and it causes a significant problem with Americans and other places in the world that were pulled away from family members, friends, You couldn't go to work anymore. You had to stay at your house. You had to stay inside. A lot of that built a lot of pressure and caused a lot of this unrest. Then you got economic pressure. You got inflation. You got a housing crisis. People can't buy houses. So everything fits in to all the things that are causing people to do things that they wouldn't normally do. So you're having a hard time finding a job. There's a protest going on against Donald Trump and his economy. And they're making you feel like, you know what? It's his fault you can't find a job. So maybe 5 years ago, you wouldn't have gone to a protest like that because everything in your life was just fine. But the economic pressure of not having a job, not being able to buy a house, that adds up and that piles on the shoulders of people. The loss of purpose. A lot of people in this world forget that you're important. No matter what you feel about yourself, you are important. Everybody is important. You may feel like you have no self-worth, but you do. Everybody walking this earth helps the world go around. Every single person. But the loss of purpose has caused a lot of people to desensitize themselves with political violence. The online echo chambers, TikTok, Kick, Instagram, Facebook, all of these, X, all of them. Everybody gets involved with them one way or the other. You may not be on one platform regularly, but there's a platform that you are on, and that's your go-to information zone. And that's where you're going to get your information, your news. And if you go to one way or the other, it's going to take you down those rabbit holes. And that's a problem. And people have a lot of paranoia, distrust, and fear. Just take a look at what happened in early 2019. Grocery stores were empty.
It's a familiar sight these days, lots of empty store shelves. We couldn't find toilet paper or any paper products at Westside Market. And the cleaning supply aisle isn't much better. And in the bread aisle, only a few loaves left. They'll get more deliveries, but to prevent this from happening,
that affects everybody. That affected me. You have empty grocery store shelves. Remember we had a run on toilet paper? Who started the run on toilet paper? All of a sudden, one day when COVID started, everybody started growing to get toilet paper. I remember when going to Sam's Club, I saw a guy with about 5 cases of toilet paper on his cart. I'm thinking to myself, what's going on? And then I go in the back and all the toilet paper's gone. So what do? I start grabbing cases of toilet paper by the bushels. Everybody starts running, and COVID had nothing to do with toilet paper, but everybody started hoarding toilet paper, buying it off the shelves. For what reason? I'm still waiting for an FBI investigation on what happened to the toilet paper during COVID. Because who started it? It had to have been somebody. I bet you it was somebody in California. Somebody in California said, you know what, we need to start buying toilet paper with the whole COVID thing. And then they started going on a run on toilet paper, and then nobody had it. Nobody had it. You could see what I mean? There comes a time in life when things are really valuable and they don't have any value until you absolutely need them. And toilet paper was probably worth $30, $35 a roll back in 2019. Don't forget that. I'll never forget when that shit happened. That was just nuts. So people aren't born violent. They're pushed into it. And America is pushing people to the absolute edge. Election cycles are like Florida hurricanes. Everybody freaks out. Half the store closes. Nobody agrees on which direction the store is going to come from. But this is what you got to expect. More misinformation, more claims of fraud, more doxing the officials, more take the country back rhetoric, more pressure on election workers. And that's what we're doing. We can't stop and just be normal people like we were 20 years ago. We can't. We are inundated with information all day long. And it's gotten to the point where we can't see through the clutter that the media is doing to rile everybody up. It's complete manipulation, and it happens on both sides of the aisle. It does. And I agree, the right has problems with some of the rhetoric, so does the left. And if we just woke up as Americans and realized we've been played, we've been manipulated, and we've gone through this rabbit hole for almost a decade now, this is the battlefield that we are now dealing with, because everybody is on their phones scrolling all day long. And if you can figure it out and put the phone down for an hour, 2 hours a day, maybe, just maybe, the media won't be able to push you and get your buttons going like they do all the time. So Here's what these platforms are pushing right now. Rage equals engagement. If they can get you riled up and raged and pissed off about a certain topic, they keep you engaged. You start doing research. You start trying to find more information about it. Rage equals engagement. And the social media platforms, they want you engaged. That's how they make money, guys. That's how they sell it to the advertisers. If you stay engaged and enraged, they make more money. It's all profit. Rage equals engagement. Engagement equals profit. And they're in it for profit. So the more people are engaged in the platforms and looking up information and finding different avenues to do some research on and Googling shit and going on ChatGPT, it's engagement and it creates more advertising dollars. And if you got more profit, you're going to keep people mad. So remember that. Rage equals the engagement. The more engagement equals more profit for them. And the more profit for them, they got to keep people mad. And that's what they're doing. People aren't debating the issues anymore. They're trying to own everybody else for clout. That's what they do. Somebody does a video, then somebody else does another video for rebuttal on that video. So I get more likes than they have. I have more engagement than I see it on X all the time. That somebody might screenshot or post something else of another video of somebody else, and they actually call the other person out and say, look at that. You thought you're going to have rage bait, but now my video, my post has more engagement than yours does. That's what we've gone to. That's what society has moved to. So now the new $1 million question is, can we fix this mess? Can we? First of all, the realistic solutions to all this is stop treating politics like a darn religion. It's not. It's politics. And more people are engaged in it than ever before. And we need to wake up and realize it's not you. It's not all you are. It's politics. Now I do a show, obviously, but this is for entertainment purposes. And it's more for entertainment purposes for myself. And we got to dial back the doom content. Everything is doom and gloom because it gets clicks, it gets engagements. And that's what people want. Everybody wants to be famous on TikTok. Everybody wants to be popular on Instagram. But we got to dial back the content because it's not all doom and gloom. Walk outside. Sometimes it's just a really nice day. And teach media literacy, which is huge. Teach people that they have to understand that when they're going down rabbit holes, you can't always believe every single thing that you read. You have to be smarter than that. Do a little research. If you want to take the time, please do. I always tell on the end of my lives and my shows, do your own research. Don't take my word for it. Everybody's got a research thing in their hands right here. You can look up anything you want. And if you can spend hours finding information. But remember, there's always two sides to every coin, right? There's a left side and a right side. And you have to remember that. If you go down a rabbit hole and you lean to the left or you lean toward the right, that's where the algorithm is going to take you. So have some literacy and require transparency for your political ads. We don't. A lot of the ads now, they just manipulate you. They make you think everything's hunky-dory and everything's wonderful when it really isn't. And if you read through the lines, look, Trump's just as bad. They're all bad at it. They all want to get your vote. We got to require more transparency for political ads, and they have to tell the truth. If the truth doesn't unfold in the political ads, they should not be allowed to air it. And a community-level dialogue, local town halls. You got to go to your meetings. Go to your town halls. When your congressman or congresswoman comes into town, and they're in town because they get a lot of breaks now, they've had about 217 days off. So when they come into town and they're in the community, go to these meetings, interact with them. Let them know your voice. Let them hear you. Let them know that you're pissed off about one thing or another, and tell them they need to start working for you because that's your job. And we got to start removing financial incentives for rage algorithms. That's right. We got to stop incentivizing and paying people on these platforms for rage and conflict. Because if we don't do that, we're never going to fix it. And we need to fix it now. We need to come together, join hands, and be civil with each other. Because if we don't, and it doesn't stop there, we're going to keep going down the pathway of intolerance and anger. And that's not the way we should be. Well, that's it for today. Join me next time for a little chit chat, some observations, and some good old fashioned conversation. Thanks.